We argued. They didn't want to pray Nawafil. We got to Fajr. We argued when to pray Fajr. About 200 people approximately, and half of them didn't pray Fajr. And they're going to fight jihad to save this ummah, and they couldn't save themselves. So I tell you this because I want you to be inspired to understand that the ink of the scholar, it outweighs the blood of the martyr. And going there on emotion like I did wasn't the right thing to do. What we have to do as Muslims, we have to educate and propagate, and then as a last resort, if they oppress us to the point where it's totally unnecessary, then we're going to fight back. But right now, we're fighting back just out of hatred for the United States. You go to Iraq, when I was there, while bombs are going off, and we thought we could die at any moment. I mean, let's face it, I was making dhikr all the time and asking Allah to make it easy for us, because I didn't know. I was in an electrical plant. I mean, that's one of the first places you expect to be bombed. What we have to do as Muslims, we have to educate and propagate, and then as a last resort, if they oppress us to the point where it's totally unnecessary, then we're going to fight back. But right now, we're fighting back just out of hatred for the United States. You go to Iraq, when I was there, while bombs are going off, and we thought we could die at any moment. I mean, let's face it, I was making dhikr all the time and asking Allah to make it easy for us, because I didn't know. I was in an electrical plant. I mean, that's one of the first places you expect to be bombed, right? In the electrical plant, being exploited by all the media outlets. So I thought, okay, I'll use it for a good cause. And what the cause was, everybody was saying that Arabs are stupid and they're going to fight for Saddam. I didn't meet one person out of the people going to fight for Saddam. So what I did was I explained to all the major networks around the world that the Muslims are there for the people of Iraq who are being oppressed. But I said Saddam Hussein is a munafiq. That's worse than a non-Muslim. And I said George Bush, he's an idiot. So I said they're both idiots. So you can't make it black or white. You know, it's just they're both idiots, and that's the bottom line. So I told all the newspaper reporters all around the world. So I was on all the major networks all over the world except for Canada and the US. Because I was telling them, logically and rationally speaking, that the people coming were not coming except for humanitarian purposes for the people, but not for Saddam. And they don't want to hear that here. They want to hear that all Arabs are crazy, you know, all they want to do is fight jihad. But there were people that sincerely got sick and tired of, you know, watching people get killed. So after doing the interviews, I ended up leaving. And I went through the border, and Syria let me back in the country without a visa, which also doesn't happen very often. And they let me carry around my sword, and that was nice. Imagine I'm walking around Iraq and Syria with this sword, and it's in a thing. It was nice. And so they were trying to take away my sword a couple times, but I fought with them. And the guys, you know, it's amazing. You know, I wanted the sword, and the guys are like, want to take away the sword. And in Syria, they have police that don't wear uniforms. They just carry AK-47s. So they stop the little bus and they take the sword out, and I'm, give me the sword. Come on, sword. People are, shut up. All these people, shut up. Everywhere I go, shut up. So they give me back the sword. I brought it back to Canada, and I gave it to a brother who was one of the people who I accepted Islam with. I gave it as a gift to him because he wanted the sword. So after coming back to Canada, the day before I arrived, CSIS called me, and they wanted to interview me. And I said, oh yeah, I was in jihad in Iraq. He goes, oh, really? Could we talk about that? So I went to an interview, and they're nice. Like, I mean, they got to be, right? They're intelligence gathering people. So I went to Tim Hortons, and we talked about it. And I told him the story, because I was a human shield. I didn't fight. The non-Arabs didn't fight, and plus, I wouldn't fight. Not for them. I would have felt like a hypocrite. I just went on a humanitarian level as a human shield, because I couldn't fight for either side. I was doing what I thought was right at the time, but it was emotional. So I explained to them the whole situation, so everything was okay. And then I bumped into a newspaper reporter for Ottawa Citizen. He wrote a story about it. So then they interviewed me again, and they started asking me. They had all my email, everywhere. Who's this guy? And I was like, oh, so anyone who studies in Pakistan now, all of a sudden they're going to trace it back and tell you next week I'm going to be on the news. I'm part of Al-Qaeda or the Taliban, right? I mean, so sorry about your luck, people from Pakistan, because that's what they're trying to do right now. So I told them the story. And they couldn't do anything because I have no ties to anybody. I just, as an individual, felt in my heart that I wanted to help the people, the Muslims. So I actually invited them tonight, and they said, sorry, we can't attend. But maybe they did attend, or maybe they, who knows. But my bottom line is I'm open with you like this so you understand. Fear Allah. Don't let them make you paranoid. We can do organizations and be transparent in what we do, and we can fight them by their own laws. By their own country laws within Canada. We'll have enough rights to propagate Islam without them having to say anything. We just have to not act irrationally. Like, we can't start jumping up in the air and, grabbing guns and shooting everybody that doesn't listen to what we say. We just have to say, peace, brother, and walk away and go to the next person. So when I came back from that, I talked to CSIS and I started this organization because I felt in my heart that there's nobody that can convince me that going for jihad overseas is better than right now going in jihad for seeking knowledge. Because the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, whoever seeks knowledge is in jihad until he returns. So I felt that if we can inspire the Muslims to get educated Islamically, then maybe we can start popping up in all these countries and actually reteaching the Muslims what Islam really is. That way, if we actually win a battle, we'll be able to call them to the right thing, instead of arguing when Fajr is prayed or arguing how many times we have to pray, etc. So our purpose is to propagate Islam in a correct manner and bring the new Muslim in, support them, and then if they wish to study overseas, get them to sign a waiver. Let CSIS, the CIA, FBI, everybody can have all the information about us because we're not affiliated with anybody. Then inshallah, help the Muslims this way. So it brings me, I had lots of stories, but I didn't want to bore you with them, so it brings me to right now, where we just started a business, put about $70,000 into the business so far, and that's the organization, because we want to become self-sufficient, inshallah. And we started now these conferences on a monthly basis, and we're asked by other organizations to do the same. So we called you here for you to know that as new Muslims, don't count us out. Don't think because somebody has learned Arabic, they know Allah. To know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a gift given by Allah. And like the brothers were saying, to be closer to Allah has got nothing to do with where you're born, it's how many deeds you do for His sake. So in the beginning, inshallah, as years go on, we'll be producing, inshallah, Islamic scholars. And these are the true enemies of the devil, not people who are willing to die. Because there's lots of people all over the world. The Japanese use kamikaze jets to go into Pearl Harbor and other things. They didn't die for Allah. We have those people available to the Muslim world. But we need people who have the patience to sit down 8 to 10 hours a day to learn the religion in order to teach it to the people. That is a real man. I tell you, I've done both, and it's easy to wait for a bomb to land on me to kill me and call myself martyr. But man, 8 to 10 hours a day memorizing Quran and being patient with the deen, that takes a lot of patience and real taqwa. And the Muslims have forgotten their deen and started thinking, oh, Islam's simple, brother. Oh, you're fundamentalist. Oh, we got to modernize Islam. It's not Islam's fault. The condition of the Muslims are the way it is. It's the Muslims' fault. If we follow the basic principles like praying 5 times a day, start with praying 5 times a day before you stick your opinion about Islam. Because if you're not praying 5 times a day, where do you think your opinion's coming from? So these are the things, from my story that I gathered through life experience. I've been to Morocco, I've been to Mauritania, I've been to Cairo twice, I've been for Hajj and Umrah, I've been to Syria, I've been to Iraq, I've been to Malaysia, I've been to China, I've been to Taiwan, I've been to Japan, I've been to Amsterdam, I've been to Panama. This was all since I accepted Islam. I never traveled before Islam. So I'm not talking ignorantly. I've met all these people. And like the brothers say, the priorities are way, way off. So my recommendation for anybody who's lost, whether Muslim or not Muslim, make a connection with the Creator. Without that connection to the Creator of the universe, there's no hope for you. No hope for me, no hope for anyone. Because you've written off the only one who can help you through your problems. And that's pure ignorance, as far as I'm concerned. And it also says that in the Quran. They'll face the hellfire for that. But alhamdulillah, that was my story in a nutshell, because you've been so patient, and it's getting late, and I know families have to go. So thank you very much for coming and supporting us. And anything I said that I might have made a mistake with, I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive myself and all the brothers. And I ask all glory be to Allah, and understand that we're straight, or myself, I try to tell you the story, not for anything else, but for you to understand. Just fear Allah. We'll go through this life. Don't fear the people around you. They can't hurt you except by the will of Allah. So just fear Allah. We keep moving about our business and doing the things we're doing, and inshallah you'll see maybe the people in Canada will accept Islam. But not if we try to change the religion to suit them. Just stick to the principle. But if you don't know how to explain it, bring the people to somebody who can explain it.